But, we're all about protecting our kids, yet we're down here saying all sorts of horrible things and describing partial birth abortions with no medical background whatsoever while there's children in the balcony, because we don't live our values that we espouse. Okay, so I've got my clothes. I think I'll do this one more time. Move to bracket. See, Ernie used to be able to write his motions while giving a floor speech, and I can't, I can type and talk at the same time, carry on a conversation. I cannot physically write and talk. Bracket move. LB 147. So, okay. Sorry, I'm not trying to, I'm just really not great at writing and talking at the same time. So, the Dobbs decision, June 24th, some 52 countries changed their abortion laws between January 2000 and May 2022. And all but 2 of these countries expanded the grounds for legal abortion. Countries that expanded the grounds for legal abortion often did so to reduce maternal death and illness, ensure access to basic health care, which includes abortion services, and recognize the right of individuals to make their own decisions about pregnancy, childbearing. Nicaragua, Poland, and now the United States are the only nations to have backtracked on legal grounds for abortion in this century. What is today's date? 3. Apologies. So, next page. I am questioning why I'm wearing heels this morning. Can you give this to the clerk for my next motion? Even in Ireland, where the population is overwhelmingly Catholic, abortion was made legal on request.
1 minute.
Thank you. In 2019. Yet, because abortion laws are restrictive in most low and middle income countries, 4 in 10 women have reproductive age worldwide. 4 in 10 women of reproductive age worldwide live in countries with restrictive abortion laws. With abortion in the United States now legislated at the state level, the country as a whole cannot be categorized as having either a protective or restrictive abortion law. Rather, the Dobbs decision has resulted in a chaotic legal patchwork that, as of August 2022, leaves some 22 million U.S. women of reproductive age living under highly restrictive laws more typical of low and middle income countries than of higher income countries. More states are likely to adopt restrictive policies.
That's your time, Senator. You're recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Restrictive laws lead to unsafe abortions. I mean, has anybody seen the movie Dirty Dancing? Like that entire movie, the premise of the movie Dirty Dancing, this is Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey, the entire premise is an unsafe abortion because abortion wasn't legal. That's the whole premise of that movie. I mean, it's got some fun dance moves in it and a reconciliation of a daughter and her father, but the whole premise of the movie is an unsafe abortion because abortion was not yet legal. Historically, legal restrictions on abortion have proven ineffective at curtailing the incidence of abortion. Global, regional, and national estimates of abortion abortion incidents, have repeatedly shown that abortion is no less common in settings with restrictive laws than in those where it is broadly legal. But where abortions are largely legal, they are more likely to occur under unsafe conditions. The World Health Organization defines safe abortions as those carried out using a recommended method appropriate to the gestational age and by someone with the necessary skills. Someone with the necessary skills seems important. We don't have those people deciding what is safe or appropriate, but hopefully, despite completely ignoring all of the experts that came to testify in opposition to these bills, they still have the skills. The consequences of restrictive abortion laws are highly inequitable. Before abortion was widely legal throughout Europe, some women crossed national borders to obtain safe and legal abortions. For example, before abortion was fully legalized in Ireland, pregnancies in Ireland, sorry, my glasses, I'm still getting used to it. In 2019, thousands of Irish women traveled to England each year to terminate their pregnancies. Some U.S. women live in restrictive states may have the option of crossing state or even national borders for care if they have time, money, information, and other resources needed to make it happen. Where abortion is largely illegal, many women who need to end a pregnancy manage to obtain these drugs through informal channels. Evidence indicates that access to medication abortion helps to reduce maternal illness and death in many settings with restrictive abortion laws. Even with these backdoor paths to safe abortions in restrictive settings, however, unsafe abortion is common in legally restrictive settings. How much time do I have left? This is my closing, right?
A minute, 38 seconds.
And this is my closing?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm not feeling 100%, as I'm sure my voice indicates, but I am a little tired, couldn't sleep because my throat hurt so bad last night. And so I'm a little woozy. Trying to do a filibuster while woozy is not my top form.
1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to change my tactics a little bit. I mostly am just talking about abortion and gender affirming care this morning because, as I'm sure Senator Kauth would agree, this bill doesn't have a lot. I do have amendments on the bill to change some language, but it really doesn't do much of anything. I do hope to have more substantive things to say that are germane to future bills, but this particular bill didn't really offer a lot in the way of conversation. And I'm going to save that conversation for when I get to the amendments.
That's your time, Senator.
I'll pull my bracket motion.
The motion is withdrawn. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, Senator Kavanaugh would move to bracket LB 147.
Senator Kavanaugh, you're recognized to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. Feel free to talk slower up front between motions so that I can take bigger sips of water. Okay, it's 10:09. I have probably 9 minutes left to open on this one. And then I have another 15 minutes total to talk on this motion. So that will take us to 25 minutes, 10:35. Okay. One of the things that I noticed is that there's a lot of bills that came out on worksheet order right away that are cleanup bills or just a technical thing that are easy and have no opposition and ultimately result in the introducers potentially passing a lot of bills. That's great. They're all freshman Republicans. All these easy peasy, lemon squeezy, do nothing bills belong to freshman Republican. It is a concerted effort to pad their resume, to make them look like an effective legislator. It's extremely transparent. Some of these bills could even be one bill, but they're parceled out into numerous bills. So we have at our desk the agenda, and then every morning, I think it's every morning, maybe it's the afternoon, sorry, I'm not positive, but the pages. Thank you, pages, for all of your work. They come in and they put an updated worksheet order and updated agenda on our desks. And don't forget to flip the agenda over. Sometimes it carries over to the next page. I have made that mistake before. And my colleagues have been grateful because I was probably filibustering when I did. So on the worksheet order, we have at the top A bills, which we only have one A bill right now on worksheet order, 278. And then we have priority bills, 77, 79, 195, 277, 343, 376, 447, 562. Interestingly, these ever so urgently important bills of 574 and 626 are not on that priority list. So here we are, blowing things up over non-prioritized bills. But I am being proactive and assuming that they will get prioritized, hoping that they don't, but assuming that they will get prioritized. So friends, if you have a priority bill that you have not yet prioritized, I would get it done lickety split, because these two bills, if they're in front of your bills, whew, I'm sorry. Your bills are probably not going to see floor time. And if your bills are on this worksheet order, I don't know how many more days we're staying on worksheet order before we move to priority bills, but you're also not going to see anything happen. Okay, so we have our 2023 priority bills. Then we have general file. And so priority bills, I think, are also listed on general file. I'm trying to 562, maybe not. They might move off of, do they move? See, because you track, like, you have general file bills. There's 59 bills on general file. Then you have ENR initial, and there's 19 bills there. That means we have moved 19 bills from general file to the next stage. Then there is select file, which is the next stage of floor debate. There's 4 of those, and I'll take time on those as well. It's LB1, LB151, LB207, LB296. I'm going to talk on all of those. And then we have enrollment and review for engrossment. That has 0 bills because nothing's moved beyond select file. We haven't had select file debate yet. So we get to ENR for engrossment, and we're going to see very few bills make it to that place. And then we have final reading. We're going to see very few bills get to that place. And we have passed by the legislature. I think you can guess we're going to have very few bills get to that place, and then approved by the governor. Line item veto, returned by the governor without approval, passed notwithstanding objections of the governor, became law without governor's signature, failed on final reading, resolutions delivered to Secretary of State, indefinitely postponed. Now, you know, there's a lot of motions to indefinitely postpone bills. Now, withdrawn, we have 9 bills on the withdrawn category. And then underneath that, there's 3 bars. And for those at home, you can actually see this on the legislature's webpage. On the home page, there's like a list of document links, and the worksheet is on there, and I think it's called worksheet. It's updated electronically when it is updated here. So you can click on that and see the daily worksheet. When the clerk reads things into the record on the microphone, some of the things he's reading is where things have moved in worksheet order, that a bill's been reported out, a bill's moved from general to select or ENR for initial, et cetera. And then you have the bills that are in committee. And some committees do not have a lot of bills. Now, we have 59 bills on general file, so there's a potential that there were more bills in some of these committees, but the exec board has 11. Oh, okay, I'll have to do those later. Yeah, just leave them there. Thank you. The exec board has 11. The exec board is kind of like our HR should function as sort of an HR. It's like where administrative things in the legislature happen. So they have 11 bills. General Affairs has 27. Government, Military and Veteran Affairs has 67. That's where I think most of my bills actually ended up were in government. And I think I've had most of my hearings there. HHS has 7. Judiciary has 120. Woo. Judiciary is always a bit heavy loaded. Natural Resources, 27. Retirement System, 13. And Revenue, 92. Transportation Telecommunications is 43. Urban Affairs, 25. I have several bills in revenue that we're on day 33 and they haven't been scheduled. I haven't had a single bill hearing in revenue, but I have a lot of bills that went to revenue. Yesterday, Senator Hughes had her final bill introduction in HHS, and I was like, wow, must be nice to be a Republican. Your bills get scheduled, your bills get kicked out, your bills get rushed through. You get to do whatever you want without regard for other human beings.
1 minute.
Or children. That must be nice. Okay, 1 minute. And then I believe I'm in the queue. I can see that there's people in the queue, but I'm also can't see who they are. So maybe somebody's going to call the question. That would be hilarious and awesome. I hope somebody does. Okay. So yesterday, we had testimony leaned heavy in support of a proposed Malcolm X holiday in Nebraska. That's awesome. For a shared civil rights leader day, instead, one lawmaker raised the idea for shared civil rights leader day instead.
That's your time, Senator,
Thank
and you're
you.
next in the queue.
Thank you. So I'm trying to figure out where that comment came from. A shared civil rights leader day. I mean, Malcolm X is a famous Nebraska figure and leader of civil rights. So we could probably spare a day. I don't know why we need to share it with others, but okay. So LB 53 is a repeat attempt by State Senator Terrell McKinney of Omaha, who said he introduced a similar proposal the first year he was elected. At least one difference this time around is that the controversial Malcolm X is newly inducted into the Nebraska Hall of Fame. The recognition last year marked the third attempt and makes Malcolm X the first African American in the body of 26. Several people Wednesday noted the recent Hall of Fame honor, which will put a memorial bust in the state capitol. Several also noted the 17-acre Malcolm X birth site in North Omaha, which hosts events to remember the legacy of the man born as Malcolm Little in Omaha on May 19th, 1925. But many of the testifiers said institutionalizing a holiday would serve Nebraskans in different ways, including providing an entry point for schools to talk about his global influence and his story of reformation and transformation. Evolving, Mary Mullen told the committee that she came to know and admire Malcolm X when she was a student at Central High School. Her study opened a door to talk about serious matters with her parents, who she said then thought of Malcolm X as a hater of white people. But words other than hater come to mind, Mullen said: struggle, redemption, bravery, pride, and wisdom. I had learned of a great man who kept evolving in his life and whose family fled Omaha when he was just over a year old because of the Ku Klux Klan threats. Mullen told lawmakers, yes, we will have a bust people can visit, but consider doing something bold and brave like Malcolm X himself, establish a holiday, and give us all something to celebrate collectively. Kamara Snipes of Nebraska Civic Engagement Table testified that a holiday offers a time to reflect and connect the lessons of history with current reality. She said that connection is more powerful when young Nebraskans realize a renowned figure came from the same place and background as they do. Making space in the school year to discuss Malcolm X will set up important conversations that can pave the way for future civic participation. And Snipes, who said she was a teenager at Bryan High School when she learned that Malcolm X was from Nebraska. A spark was created and led her to and her classmates launching the school's first African American club. I have been actively and civically engaged ever since, she said. LB 53 describes Malcolm X as a human rights leader, a staunch advocate, and a pursuer of freedom, justice, and equity. A financial analysis of the measure estimates that creating a Malcolm X holiday would cost the state about $1.5 million the first year, based on employees who would be required to work on the holiday. Don't water it down.
1 minute.
Thank you. McKinney said lawmakers would be recognizing the world's most famous Nebraskan if LB 53 passed into law. To the general American public, he is seen as an opposing force to the peaceful, nonviolent philosophy of Dr. King in the struggle for civil rights against white supremacy, McKinney said. They differed in opinion, but both were needed for the time. Preston Love Jr., Malcolm X exposed human rights, perhaps even more than civil rights. He said the notion of shared civil rights leaders Day waters down the message he tried to portray. The committee took no action Wednesday on whether to move the measure to the full legislature for debate. Thank you, Senator McKinney, for bringing that bill. That article is available in the Nebraska Examiner.
That's your time, Senator. Senator Hansen, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would Michaela Cavanaugh yield to a question, please? Senator Cavanaugh, sorry.
Senator Cavanaugh, will you yield to a question?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry I wasn't here for like the first hour. I was driving, but I was listening to the conversation you were having. I just want to clear one thing up. Did you say you did or did not have adequate time for discussion during the executive session?
Oh, no. Thank you for that opportunity to clarify, Senator Hansen. You offered adequate time for discussion. Absolutely. Categorically, yes. My not my concern. What I am upset about is the lack of discussion that happened, not that you as the chair offered adequate time, and I very much appreciate that. Thank you. I'm sorry for that.
That's fine. I just want to make sure. So I had a couple of people asking me about that.
Yes, no, you did. Thank you.
And I do appreciate Senator Kavanaugh's, her voicing her concerns during executive session. And one of the things I did mention during the executive session, because of her concern about us not introducing any amendments or discussing it further, it was just deeply personal to her, was what she talked about during the executive session along with Senator Day, and I completely get that. And they had a lot of concerns with the bill. From my understanding, my concerns, and those maybe among the committee who voted for it, our concerns are just not the same. And this is something I mentioned to her. And so it is deeply personal to us as well. It's just that her concerns are not the same as ours. And we didn't have as many concerns with the bill as she did. And she did have the recourse to offer, to vote for a committee amendment or introduce one, and then we could have voted on it as a committee. Nothing was done. I just wanted to make sure we kind of clear the air here so people listening to this kind of understand how the process works. And so, from my understanding, myself and other committee members, we felt the bill as it was written currently, was adequate to us. And I understand Senator Kavanaugh and others have deeply held personal concerns with the bill, and I totally get that, and I'm not going to dispute that at all. So I just want to kind of make that clear so it doesn't look like there wasn't any discussion or we weren't cutting anything off. We just felt like we had nothing much more to say, at least I did anyway. So just want to put my 2 cents in, and I'll get back to Senator Kavanaugh. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Blood, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, friends all, since we're still talking about health issues, first of all, I'd like to say I stand against the bracket, but I do want to continue my conversation from earlier because I was asked some questions after I told my story about my visit to the CBD shop. And so Senator Frederickson was talking to me in reference to the Kratom. And I don't know if you know what that's called in the street, but it's gas station heroin. It's banned in 60 states. It creates an opiate and stimulant-like effect. And it's known to do things like cause spontaneous intracranial hemorrhages. But guess what? It's legal in Nebraska. So have a fun day when you guys go to the gas station, I guess, next time. But we can't pass medical marijuana because, oh my gosh, it's going to be a gateway drug to both legalization and people utilizing other harder drugs, even though it's going on in other states. And, I guess all those states are now, they've burned to the ground, or I don't know. So I don't know if you know this, but since we don't regulate it here in Nebraska, you really truly don't know if there is more than 3% THC in any of those products that you're buying. And based on the salesman that talked to me, I'm guessing it's more than 3%, friends, because they're talking about people getting highs. We know that when people are doing the Delta 8, Delta 9, they're having things like they feel like they have paralysis. They feel like they're hallucinating. They're seeing things. They have memory issues. It's kind of scary for some of the people that have never done it. They buy what looks like a chocolate chip cookie or a Rice Krispie bar from one of these shops, and they're staying home the rest of the day because they're not feeling like leaving the house, and it's not in a good way, friends. So we know that say that you buy those Delta 9 gummies that you can get at all the shops, right? And they tell you it provides a euphoric effect. If you're lucky, nothing worse than a euphoric effect. But say that you're coming home from that shop. In Nebraska, if it ends up having more than 3% of THC, which it likely does because we're too lazy to regulate it, that's a class 4 felony. You might go to prison for 2 years. You might get a $10,000 fine. Did you know that? But again, we can't pass medical marijuana, but we can pretend that what's going on around us isn't happening, right? We don't need to regulate it. It's not like people are gonna, die? Have something serious happen? Oh, wait, no, that's exactly what's gonna happen. And you know what else we don't do is we don't regulate the age that you have to be to go and buy that stuff. Look through state statute. I've looked over and over and over again. If you were 12 years old, you could ultimately depending on whose shop it is, go in and buy something. You could buy Delta 8, you could buy Delta 9, and take it and share it with your friends at the grade school. Boy, that's better than a PTA party with cookies, right? So if you look at some of the smoke shops say we don't serve you unless you're 18 or 21, but if you're 18, you're probably still a high school senior in a lot of cases. I'm sure you wouldn't take those back to high school and share those with anybody, right? But whatever. We don't need to regulate it. It's not like any of these things are dangerous. And I gotta say, when I talk to young people, they talk about the 70s and stuff. I grew up in rural Nebraska, and so mostly what I always saw was what they called was ditchweed. Like literally they pulled it out of their windbreak on the farm and would smoke it. I'm allergic to hemp, so I never partook, to be really frank. I couldn't even climb the ropes in gym. But I can tell you—
1 minute.
I can tell you that our priorities are so skewed. Looking at the bills that are getting kicked out right now, listening to Senator Kavanaugh speak about what's happened, I want to bring everybody back down to earth. Our priorities are messed up. We're fighting the wrong things. And while we're fighting the wrong things, people are coming in our back door and screwing us over. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator John Kavanaugh, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I just thought I'd rise to talk about LB 147 for a minute. Although I appreciate what Senator Blood was just talking about, I learned a lot there. I'd not heard of this gas station, I think heroin, was that the right word? Gas station heroin. That was an interesting thing to learn about, I guess. So I was just sitting here reading LB 147, which is the bill we're on, and trying to digest what it is, which actually, we got a lot of bills, we got a lot of work to do, but it is good to sometimes just sort of sit here and think about things. And that's an opportunity we get when somebody slows things down for us. So this bill looks like it changes a dollar amount for waivable notice for counties. So basically it looks like when somebody protests their taxes, if I'm right, then they are entitled to a refund. The county, their property tax, they protest their property tax amount or their assessment, they are entitled to a refund based off of the levy that's been assessed against that valuation. There is a notice requirement for the county treasurer to other political subdivisions, and this basically updates that section to allow for email as opposed to first-class mail if requested in writing by the governing body of the political subdivision. So my reading of that would say that if the City Council of Omaha says they want to be, or the mayor governing body, could be the mayor and the City Council, asks the county treasurer of Douglas County to be notified by email rather than first-class mail, that the county treasurer could do that, which seems like a smart update and allow for modernization of our statutes. There's also the waiver requirement for any political subdivision whose share of the refund is $1,000 or less. The governing body of a political subdivision may waive the notice requirement by notifying the county treasurer in writing. So again, this allows the political subdivision to say that they don't need to be noticed when their share of the refund is less than $1,000. And I think it used to be 200, although I'm not seeing that in the statute here, but I saw it in the statement of intent. So I guess I can look for that. But so I just thought I'd give people an opportunity to refocus and think about LB 147 for a minute. In light of reading it, I think I would be opposed to the bracket motion and probably in favor of LB 147. It seems like a good update to our statutes. And with that, Mr. President, I would yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Dover has about 20 student guests in the north balcony. They are from Norfolk High School business students. Please stand and be recognized by your Nebraska Legislature. There are members of the Columbia Independent School from Columbia, Missouri, 10th graders in the north balcony. Please stand and be recognized by the Nebraska Legislature. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. What time is this?
This is your third, and then you'll have your close.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I have the auditor report from Mike Foley from 2014, but I will save that for my next go round. I don't think I have another bracket motion, so we're probably getting to a vote on this bracket motion. So get ready to hit those red lights on call the House and the bracket motion. And this is an article from the Pew Research Center. And I can't keep track anymore. Is the Pew Research Center like super liberal, not like valid any longer? Or is it still considered real research? Do we only do Heritage or ALEC? Because I can find things to read from ALEC that I definitely agree with, like Texas's approach to sentencing reform and how much money they've saved, and how ALEC lauds those efforts, and how Nebraska could have done that last year. But this is an article from the Pew Research Center dated June 12th, 2014, Political Polarization in the American Public, How Increasing Ideological Uniformity and Partisan Antipathy Affects Politics, Compromise, and Everyday Life. Republicans and Democrats are divided along ideological lines and partisan antipathy. Partisan antipathy is deeper and more extensive than any point in the last 2 decades. These trends manifest themselves in myriad ways, both in politics and in everyday life. And a new survey of 10,000 adults nationwide finds that these divisions are greatest among those who are most engaged and active in the political process. Before I go on, there's a show, I don't think it's on anymore. It's comedian Sarah Silverman. And I don't remember what it had America in the title. But the premise of the show is that she's this very, very progressive, outspoken, sort of uses a lot of profanity comedian. And the premise of the show is that she travels around and gets to know and meet with people that she completely disagrees with. And it was fantastic. It was so heartwarming to see what can happen when you have real and substantive conversations with people, when you get to know them, their lives, and maybe come to understand a little bit more why they think the way that they think, and they understand a little bit more why you think the way that you think. And that is fantastic and amazing. And I very foolishly, coming into this place, thought that that's what this was going to be. But I came to realize that this is not a deliberative and thoughtful body, that every effort to get to know me or my perspective was performative, and that nothing I said would change your minds. And that's really what has led me to this moment, this time, this day, is that there's nothing I can do to change your minds. There's nothing I can say. There's no personal story I can share. There's no impersonal story that I can share. There's no expert that I can bring in. I could bring in your mother, like the story in Tennessee about suffrage. I could bring in your mother, and she could tell you that she agreed with everything that I said, and you still wouldn't care. You have decided, in the first 10 days, you all decided what you were going to vote for. You decided you weren't going to let your minds be changed, that caring about what your constituents think or say isn't real. And it's too bad, but people sent you here, so
That's your time, Senator, and you're recognized to close.
thank you, Mr. President. So it's 10:40. 10:45-ish is when we'll go to a vote. And then I have some amendments, and then I can put up more bracket motions to stop us from getting to a vote on LB 147. I am sorry to disappoint you, Senator John Kavanaugh, but I'm not going to let you vote on this one today, even if you like it. Because I can. I'm not going to let us get to a vote on this because I can. Feels good to say that. I can stop everything. I can be a pain in the behind for every single person, including my brother, in this body. And today I am. Today I am. I am taking a stand because I can. You all can call the question, you can ramrod things through, you can make 0 changes to things, and you do it because you can. I'm a learner. It's one of my strengths. Did that Strengths Finders thing once at a job. Strategy, communication, learner. Those are, and analytical. Those are my top 4. I don't know what the 5th one was. Probably forgetfulness. But I am a learner. I'm a big learner. I love to read. I love to learn new things. I love to dig in on something. Sometimes when I am not actively participating in floor debate and we're sitting here for hours, I read agency reports. I read the budget, the actual budget, not just the summary. But I'm a learner. And I pay attention and I watch. And what I've learned is that you all are going to do whatever you want to do without remorse or consequence. You are going to do whatever you want to do because you can. So I'm going to do what I can do because I can. And you are going to find it probably as irritating as I find you're doing things just because you can. The irritation works both ways. I find it extremely irritating and disrespectful and wasteful for you all to do things without deliberation because you can, because you have the votes, because you have the votes, because you have the votes. And I am certain it is equally irritating and you view it as equally disrespectful and wasteful for me to take time because I can. But that is where we are at. I think it was Senator Hunt and Senator Conrad perhaps that talked about an olive branch, that you extend an olive branch, but somebody has to be there to take it. I'm all out of olive branches. I'm on that island where you all burned the bridges down around me. You put me on this island, you burned the bridges down. There was an olive tree. I broke the branches off. I tried to hand them to you. They fell off the cliff because nobody was there to take it. Did another one. It fell off the cliff. Did another one. It fell off the cliff. Until eventually, I have no more branches. And there's still no one to take it, even if I did.
1 minute.
This is my closing, right? Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll go to a vote on this, and then we'll go to my next amendment. And I think I only have like 3 times to talk on the amendment, so that'll be 20 minutes or so, maybe 30 minutes. And then the next amendment, since I'll be running out of time or things, I'll put up some more motions. Unless I pull this motion, which I could pull this motion. Go on to the amendments. and come back to a bracket motion later. No, let's go to a vote on this one. Yeah, let's go to a vote on this one. So with that, call of the House, roll call vote, reverse order. Thank you.
That's your time. Thank you, Senator. Roll call vote and a request for a call of the House. First, the question is, shall the House go under call? All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. Record, Mr. Clerk.
13 A's, 7 A's, place House under call.
The House is under call. Senators, please record your presence. Those unexcused senators outside the chamber, please return to the chamber and record your presence. All unauthorized personnel, please leave the floor. The House is under call. Senators Raybold, DeKay, Dover, and Hansen, please report to the chamber. The House is under call. Senators Raybold and DeKay, please report to the chamber. The House is under call. Senator Erdman announces the following guests in the it says north balcony. 8 members of the Nebraska Petroleum Producers Association. Please stand and be recognized by your Nebraska Legislature. Senator Rabel, please report to the chamber. The House is under call. Mr. Clerk, a request for roll call vote, reverse order.
Senator Wishart, voting no. Senator Wayne, voting yes. Senator Walls, Senator Von Gillern, voting no. Senator Vargas, voting no. Senator Slama, voting no. Senator Sanders, voting no. Senator Reapy, voting no. Senator Raybold, voting no. Senator Merman, voting no. Senator Mosier, voting no. Senator McKinney, voting yes. Senator McDonald, voting no. Senator Lowe, voting no. Senator Lippincott, voting no. Senator Linehan, voting no. Senator Kauth, voting no. Senator Jacobson, voting no. Senator Ibach, voting no. Senator Hunt, not voting. Senator Hughes, voting no. Senator Holcroft, voting no. Senator Hardin, voting no. Senator Hansen, voting no. Senator Holleran, voting no. Senator Geist, Senator Frederickson, voting no. Senator Erdman, voting no. Senator Dungan, not voting. Senator Dover, voting no. Senator Dorn, voting no. Senator DeKay, voting no. Senator DeBoer, voting no. Senator Day, voting no. Senator Conrad, voting yes. Senator Clements, voting no. Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, not voting. Senator John Kavanaugh, not voting. Senator Breezy, voting no. Senator Brewer, voting no. Senator Brandt, voting no. Senator Bostelman, voting no. Senator Bostar, voting no. Senator Blood, voting no. Senator Ballard, voting no. Senator Armendariz, voting no. Senator Arch, voting no. Senator Albright, voting no. Senator Aguilar, voting no. Vote is 3 ayes, 40 nays, Mr. President, on the motion to bracket.
The bracket motion fails. Mr. Clerk, for motions.
Mr. President, Senator Kavanaugh would move to reconsider the vote on the bracket motion just taken.
Raise the call. Senator Kavanaugh to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, honestly, this is genuine. Thank you. I'm really thrilled that you voted for the call of the House. I did not expect that at all. That was a very kind and generous thing to do, and it meant a lot to me. Thank you. I'm not going to stop today, but I do appreciate it, and it really did mean something to me that the call of the House did not fail for me for once this session. It might be the only time it doesn't fail this session, but I am grateful for your collegiality on that issue. I also am grateful to Senator Ben Hansen for asking me to yield to a question to clarify, because he handled a very difficult executive session with generosity and kindness. And even though the conversation itself didn't go the way that I wanted it to go or even really happen, I very much appreciate his willingness to allow Senator Day and I to speak as much as we needed to speak. So thank you, Senator Hansen. And I'm sorry if I indicated anything other than that. You have been tasked with some very challenging pieces of legislation in front of our committee, and navigating how to handle those types of legislation with grace is not easy and should be acknowledged. So thank you. I appreciate Senator Hansen for a lot of things. Another thing I'm just going to share is my second thing that I've done since I've been here. The first thing that I'm really proud of is the bill that Senator Robert Hilkeman prioritized for me. The second thing is the family support waiver that Senators Arch and Hansen worked side by side with me on, and are going to impact the lives of many children and families here in Nebraska with developmental disabilities. And I know that Senator Hansen and I don't agree on the issues of some of the bills that we voted out last night, but I also know that we both have a joint care for the children of Nebraska. And I very much appreciate that. And I don't want that to go unsaid. So I have somebody sent me, and I appreciate it, Mike Foley's auditor's report. Oh, I have how many times to talk on the motion to reconsider?
Three.
Three times to talk in addition to my closing?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm doing my opening now. I have 2 more times to talk, and then I have my closing. And the motion to reconsider, so then again, that's another, I don't know, 25 minutes. And then we go to a vote on that. And then I have 2 amendments, and I've drafted 2 more motions. And each of those things can take, with just me, up to 30 minutes each. So my intention is that if it is the intention of the body to go until committee hearings start at 1:30, that I have enough on the board to make sure that we don't go to a vote on LB 147 before that time. Of course, you can adjourn anytime. I'm okay with that too. I'll go take an aspirin and a quick nap before the afternoon. So December 10th, 2014, this is from Mike Foley, State Auditor, to then CEO of DHHS, Carrie Winter. This letter is provided pursuant to AICPA auditing standards. I'm going to skip some of the like technical number. Well, I guess I shouldn't. Standards AU-C section 265.A17, which permits early communication of certain audit findings due to their significance and the urgent need for corrective action. This is from our most recent Lieutenant Governor, Mike Foley, who was the state auditor, is the state auditor again, was also a state senator prior to that, saying in 2014, there is an urgent need for corrective action. The audit work, sorry, my computer jumped. The audit work addressed herein was performed as part of the fiscal year 2014 comprehensive annual fiscal financial report, or in parentheses, CAFR, CAFR, and statewide single, in parentheses, single audits. This communication is based on our audit procedures through October 2014. Because we have not completed our audits of the fiscal year 2014 CAFR or single, additional matters may be identified and communicated in our final report. I know I've got lots of time, but I'm trying to find where it gets into the meat and potatoes. It's a 30-page report. Okay, overall summary. There were 6,441 individuals who received Employment First, or EF, supportive service payments of $4,024,694 for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2014. These individuals were also included among the 13,491 individuals who received Aid to Dependent Children, or ADC, payments of $25,626,034. The APA conducted detailed testing of 20 cases. One case may have more than one individual if they live in the same household, with payments totaling $141,678. Which resulted in $71,371 of question cost as described below. EF or ADC assistance. EF supportive services. Type of issue, unreasonable, not in compliance with regs, lack of documentation eligibility. Comment reference, comment 1. Pardon me. Question cost, $61,817. One moment. Oh, okay. ADC cash assistance payments, not eligible due to income, resources, waivers, or unit size. Comment 3. Question costs, $7,768. ADC cash assistant payments, sanctions not properly imposed. Comment 3, $1,752. There was a lack of monitoring of contractors by DHHS to ensure compliance with program regulations. Eligibility reviews were not completed timely, contract monitoring was inadequate, and numerous other issues were noted during the detailed testing. Also, even after DHHS was notified of allegations of fraud on cases, the cases were not followed up on. Additionally, as of June 30th, 2014, DHHS had a total of $55,862,935 in federal TANF funds that were authorized to be used but not expended. Of that, DHHS could have used $14,743,235 in federal funds over the previous 2 fiscal years, FY13 and FY14, which would have reduced the use of state funds and the burden of Nebraska taxpayers. Background information. How much time do I have left?
A minute 35.
Thank you. Background information. TANF Assistance in Needy Families is a federal program meant to assist parents in providing essential care to enable dependent children to remain in their home and allow for health, growth, and development. Nebraska's TANF cash assistance program is known as Aid to Dependent Children and provides monthly cash assistance to individuals who have dependent children and fall within the income and resource limitations. The resource limitations generally $6,000 and the income limitation vary depending on size and circumstance of household. The maximum amount of cash assistance is $222 per month for the first individual, increasing by $71 for each additional person included in the household unit. Colleagues, this is the fund that has over $130 million going unused every day, growing actually every day. Your constituents are experiencing economic hardship, and their legislature is not taking any action to expand eligibility, to get those dollars out to the people to help pay for essential needs. The cost of eggs, the cost of milk, the cost of gasoline, the cost of bread, the cost of everything is going up. And we sit on monies that could be directly helping needy children. It's the whole point of TANF and the
That's your time, Senator. Senator Aguilar announces 40 students in the North Balcony from Kikram Elementary in Grand Island, Nebraska. Please stand and be recognized by your Nebraska Legislature. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh announces 50 members of the Nebraska Nurses Association in the North Balcony. Please stand and be recognized by your Nebraska Legislature. Mr. Clerk, for items.
Mr. President, your Committee on Banking, Commerce, and Insurance, chaired by Senator Slama, reports Legislative Bill 152 to general file. Additionally, notice of committee hearings from the Retirement Systems Committee as well as the Judiciary Committee, and amendments to be printed. Senator Kavanaugh to LB 206, 74, 4, 98, 395, 289, 102, 47, 33, 28, 81, 83, 183. Amendment to be printed, Senator Linehan to LB 206. Senator Hunt, amendment to be printed to LB 753 and 422. Amendments to be printed, Senator Erdman to LB 28, Senator Decay to LB 453, and Senator Blood to LB 40. That's all I have this time, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Senator Michaela Cavanaugh, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you to our nurses for being here. I hope you understand that I am here fighting for your work, for your ability to use your judgment, your training to treat your patients. I am attempting to stop my colleagues from tearing down our healthcare institutions with cable news clickbait legislation. This is a terrible way to legislate. Someone told me recently that conservatives hate model legislation. And all this is model legislation. So I'm beginning to think that that's probably a false statement. Getting back in the queue. So our TANF fund. So the entire time I have been in the legislature, HHS has held hearings, we've held interim studies, we've asked the department to come in and tell us what their plan is for these funds. Every time they tell us there's a plan and they give us the same documents, nothing happens, the fund grows. Fast forward to, we have COVID, we have a huge infusion of federal dollars and assistance across the state, across the country. That ultimately, that infusion of cash led to inflation, coupled with a workforce shortage across the country, which resulted in a delay in goods and resources being transported across the country, which resulted in an additional increase in the cost of living. All of that is happening, and we know that we have $130 million in TANF that we could be distributing to needy families, one-time cash assistance. And unlike the federal cash assistance under former President Trump's administration, this money is specific. And it doesn't go to anyone, everyone. It goes to those the most in need to help cover the cost of essential goods. So it's something that we can do to help those that are most adversely impacted by our economic crisis, while also not creating an additional economic crisis, which is what we saw the previous enormous infusion of cash put us in a bit of a situation that, along with numerous other factors, but that's where we came to inflation. So we have this $130 million sitting in a fund. We're not having any hearings at all about this, none at all. Back in August, when I was getting phone calls from the former speaker about whether or not I would be willing to come back for a abortion special session, to which I said, I might entertain it, but I knew that they didn't want it because that would have impacted the elections adversely, and several people would have lost their election if we were debating abortion. And so I knew that wasn't going to happen. And I said to others continually that we should be having a special session on economic recovery. We should have had a TANF special session in August. We didn't. Now we're here on day
1 minute.
33, day 33 of the legislative session, and we still haven't done a single thing to address our economic crisis and how our low-income wage earners are suffering in this state. But we have done a lot to talk about and address how to hurt our most vulnerable populations, how to attack public health writ large. I think I only have a few seconds left. So this is a motion to reconsider the vote on the bracket motion. Friends, the only thing I didn't do today was wear comfortable shoes. I can take this by myself for 8 hours today, if that's what the body
That's your
wants to
time.
do.
Senator Conrad, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. I wanted to give my friend Senator Kavanaugh an opportunity to catch her breath and take a rest for just a few minutes. I know that she probably doesn't need the assistance with her tenacity and stamina, but I know that there's been a kind of nasty set of bugs working their way through the legislature, and that maybe has a lot of us maybe not feeling at our very, very best. So whenever we can extend an opportunity to each other to engage in a call of the House, provide time if needed, or, it's definitely a standard practice, whether in committees or on the floor. Sometimes senators will ask for assistance with continuing debate so other conversations can happen or other business can be attended to. And that's kind of in addition to providing a little bit of respite for my friend Senator Kavanaugh, really 2 points that I wanted to focus on in my comments this morning here. Colleagues, I would ask you to seriously reconsider the motion to bracket and look really carefully at what's before us and try and, for a moment, if you can, be pragmatic and help to see a path forward outside of some of the very complex political issues and dynamics that we find ourselves within. So if we support the motion to reconsider and the motion to bracket, that doesn't kill Senator Kauth's bill, that doesn't do anything to that measure that's underlying, except for it just moves it down the agenda for about 5 days. I think perhaps if we have an opportunity to take a deep breath, kind of help to reset the agenda in regards to this measure, which has drawn so much controversy, that would clear the path, colleagues, for, I think, a lot of the other good bills that are on the agenda today to be taken up. So this is one of those moments as a collective where instead of having both or many sides kind of dig in, it's a time for us to come together and say, wow, if folks in this body want to move more quickly through the agenda, and this is the point that's causing us so much consternation, let's move it off the agenda for 5 days. It doesn't kill the bill. It doesn't change the fact that this bill will ultimately pass. This gives us a collective opportunity to say, wow, this isn't the direction that we want to go down today. There's other measures pending that folks want to take up for a variety of different reasons. So our rules allow us the opportunity to say, hey, this doesn't kill the bill. Let's take a pause for a couple of days. Let's move through some things that aren't going to draw the same amount of attention and time. So that's one thing. Check the politics for a minute, think pragmatically about what the motion to reconsider and the motion to bracket really does in this regard. Think very carefully about that, because it might be the exact off-ramp that many people are looking for this morning. And it might be hiding in plain sight.
1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. President. The other point that I just wanted to reaffirm in regards to how things are happening off mic in regards to extended debate on any number of issues. And to be clear, different senators for different reasons at different times have utilized the rules available to them and the time available to them to effectuate a host of different strategies. So there's nothing really out of the ordinary with what Senator Kavanaugh is doing today. And I think she's been very clear about her intentions. There is a lot of intangible benefits that come from a strategy like that as well. There have been very, very rich conversations with a host of different colleagues about a host of different issues pending in committees, coming up soon on the agenda, that we really haven't had a chance to have as many and as organically because we've been in the all-day committee structure for the last couple of weeks. So
That's your time,
thank
Senator.
you, Mr. President.
Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, you're recognized to speak. This is your third time, and then you'll have your close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Conrad, for your words. I hope people were listening. Of course, I do have amendments on everything on the agenda today, but if we were to reconsider the bracket motion and move this off the agenda for today, I certainly would sit down. I am, as pretty much everyone I think now knows, not feeling well. And I would happily sit down. But as long as 147 is on the board, I'm not going to sit down. So I have this time and then my close. Then we'll go to a vote on the motion to reconsider. When that fails, we'll go to the next thing. I have some amendments, but I also have additional motions here. Conversation about the rules and the motions. This is the thing that, like, early on, the threats around the rules committee. I didn't care. Like, you want to have open ballots for committee chairs? Fine by me. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. To me, I think it matters to the institution, but for me personally, I don't care if you know who I vote for. I'll tell you who I voted for committee chairs. There weren't very many contested committee chairs. I did definitely vote for Senator DeBoer for chair of transportation. So happy to share that. And I still stand by that vote. I think she would have made an excellent chair for transportation. I'm sure she's an excellent vice chair for judiciary. So yeah, it doesn't bother me. It wasn't going to change how I voted on anything. I think it gives a lot of you cover when there's a contested committee chairmanship to vote for who you think is the best person without retribution. But since everything I do comes with retribution, I don't care if you know who I vote for or not. So that one didn't bother me. Then there's you can only do one bracket motion on one bill. That's fine. Anything you do, I will just pivot and do something else until you take away all of your power in the rules, because you're trying to take away my power in the rules. And then you find out that there's still rules that I can use. So please call the question, make a motion to change the rules, to suspend the rules, to do something different with the rules. I'm here for all of it. Everything that is done to me, I can do and be disruptive that way. And that's what I'm doing. I'm being disruptive. I am purposefully being disruptive to the session. That is 100% my intention, is disruption. Reading about the differences between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King was more about peaceful protest, and Malcolm X was about disruption. And I think it's important to learn lessons from the benefits of both. Some of my colleagues are about the peaceful protest, to move things forward, to change things. That used to be who I was. I think part of it is that I had the luxury, because my first 2 years, Senator Chambers was here being disruptive. After my first 2 years, Senator Chambers was no longer here. And it was incumbent upon the body, members of the body, to take up that disruption when appropriate. I'm very grateful to have served my first 4 years
1 minute.
with a lot of people, but I'm very grateful that Senator Hunt was here to help be disruptive in those next 2 years after Senator Chambers was here. Disruption is an important tool. And we all have different roles to play in this legislature. And interestingly, I've always viewed my role as kind of like, for better or worse, I can't think of a better analogy, but kind of like a mom, like, got to keep the kids in order. We've got rules. We got to follow the rules. Come on, everybody. Let's do it. Okay, nobody's doing it. How do we get you to do the rules? Okay, got to make it uncomfortable for you if you're not going to do the rules. Like, tactics that I genuinely employ with my own children. And I still do that from time to time, but
That's your time, Senator, and you're recognized to close.
Thank you. I do it much more in a disruptive way now, because I found that as this body has changed, as it's changed from last session to this session, what used to work What used to be like, let's talk about this, let's honor the system, let's follow the rules, let's be collegial to one another, even if we disagree, all of those things have to date evaporated in this current legislature. And so I take that hat off, I set it down, I pick up my disruptive hat because I want to annoy you. I want you to genuinely be frustrated as all get out with me. I want everyone in this body, no matter your political party, to be annoyed with me. Because only when 48 of you collectively understand that it is within your power to make things better, will things get better. So I am going to be a nuisance. And I'm going to be a nuisance and a nuisance and a nuisance until you get together without me, have a party, don't invite me, it's fine, my feelings won't be hurt, and say, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We've got to fix this. She's not going to stop. What are we going to do? We want to pass X, Y, and Z. What are we going to do? How are we going to stop this? And it's not until you all have that introspective conversation with yourself and reflective conversation with one another that anything is going to change in this body. I have said it so many times. I honestly, people don't even bother to put like kill motions on my bills that are in committee because it doesn't matter, because they're not going to leave committee. And everyone knows that. Like, you don't even have to pretend that you're going to fight Michaela's bills on the floor because it does not matter. Most of them don't get scheduled in committee, and none of them will be exec on, and none of them will go anywhere. So you don't even have to be performative in your opposition to me as a legislator. But it's very freeing for me. It's very freeing for me. How much time do I have left?
2 minutes, 22 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. President. So back to TANF. Oh, I did want to mention before I forget. So we're going to get to a vote on my motion to reconsider. You can listen to Senator Conrad and vote for it, and then vote for the bracket motion. And this goes off the agenda and comes back another day, and we move on with the agenda. And I'll pull my amendments that I have on any other bills on the agenda for today, and we can move things forward for 30, 40 minutes, or you can vote against it and I'll keep talking on this bill. Fine by me either way. I'm not going to do another call of the House because I don't want to ruin that moment that we all had today. I just again want to say that I really appreciate that my call of the House didn't fail, and that I hope that in not calling a second call of the House, that you all will appreciate how much I appreciated it. And I'm not going to do calls of the House just to be dilatory during floor debate. I also want everyone to understand that I appreciate other people getting on the mic and speaking, because I very poorly wore high heels today and I'm sick. And so having a little break here and there to sit down, awesome. Still don't know how Senator Chambers
1 minute.
never did that. He also never went to the bathroom or drank any liquids on the floor. I'm not sure that he might be a robot, but I appreciate the breaks. But everyone that has taken up a couple minutes here and there to give me a break has also understood that I'm doing this. I'm not dragging anyone else into this. This is me. This is me. Senator Conrad offered a path forward that she asked me if I'd be willing to do, and I said yes. But this is all me. So those of you that are new, you can ask those that have been here for a while. You can ask everyone if they'll come talk to me. It doesn't usually work well, which is why if you ask Senator John Kavanaugh to come talk to me, he will be a flat no. Like, he's not, we carpool together. He doesn't want to have those rides home. I think that's about it. So I'll yield the remainder of my
That's
time.
your time, Senator.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Senator Kauth recognizes 2 adults and 9 children, military families from Offutt Air Force Base. Please stand and be recognized by the Nebraska Legislature. Senator Vargas has announced 12 visitors, community organizers from the Heartland Workers Centers. Please stand and be recognized by your Nebraska Legislature. Roll call vote request, Mr. Clerk.
Senator Aguilar. Senator Albright. Voting no. Senator Arch. Senator Armendariz. Voting no. Senator Ballard. Senator Blood. Voting no. Senator Bostar. Senator Bostelman. Voting no. Senator Brandt. Voting no. Senator Brewer. Senator Breezy. Voting no. Senator John Kavanaugh. Voting yes. Senator Michaela Kavanaugh. Voting yes. Senator Clements. Voting no. Senator Conrad. Voting yes. Senator Day. Senator DeBoer. Senator DeKay. Senator Dorn. Senator Dover. Voting no. Senator Dungan. Senator Erdman. Voting no. Senator Frederickson. Senator Geist. Senator Holleran. Voting no. Senator Hansen. Senator Holcroft. Voting no. Senator Hughes. Senator Hunt. Senator Ibach. Voting no. Senator Jacobson. Senator Kauth. Voting no. Senator Linehan. Voting no. Senator Lippincott. Voting no. Senator Lowe. Voting no. Senator McDonald. Voting no. Senator McKinney. Not voting. Senator Mosier. Voting no. Senator Merman. Voting no. Senator Raybold. Senator Reapy. Senator Sanders. Voting no. Senator Slama. Voting no. Senator Vargas. Voting yes. Senator Von Gillern. Voting no. Senator Walls. Senator Wayne. Voting yes. Senator Wishart. Voting no. Vote is 5 ayes, 23 nays, Mr. President, on the motion to reconsider.
Motion to reconsider fails. Mr. Clerk, for a motion.
Mr. President, Senator Kavanaugh would move to recommit LB 147 to committee.
Senator Michaela Kavanaugh, you're recognized to open.
Thank you, Mr. President, colleagues. I appreciate that. I think it was 23 of you want to keep hearing me talk. That was nice. So I will. Okay, so little tutorial on the filibuster. This now is the next motion that I'm using. I kind of got ahead of myself with the bracket motion, to be perfectly honest. Like, I should have saved that for the end of my motions, but live and learn, I guess. I don't know. So this is motion. If this were to pass, this would again take the bill off of the agenda and move it to committee. Move it back to committee. And then I'm not actually sure what happens. I think the committee then has to take action again to kick it back out. And then I assume it would go back on worksheet order at the end. I don't actually know what happens once it goes back to committee. So I've never gotten that far. Well, let's find out together, everybody. Let's vote for it. And we'll find out what happens when you recommit something to committee. Maybe if Senator Wayne's in here, maybe he'll be able to tell us what happens when you recommit to committee. So LB 147, a technical cleanup bill, I think. I don't really know. Some people might say, why? Why are you doing this on a bill that doesn't really do anything? And it's easy. It's because of the introducer. That's why. The introducer is attacking our children, hurting our children, most likely going to cause our children to take their own lives as a result of the horrible rhetoric that has been brought to the debate in this legislature. So I don't want to let our bills pass. That's it. It's mean. But so is the legislation that Senator Kauth is bringing forward. I'm okay with it. I will be petty on behalf of our children. They are our most precious resource. We should be protecting them, not hurting them. And I hope that any children, trans youth, and really any trans adults that watch any part of debate understand that I am here fighting for you. This is a fight for your existence, your future, your state, your families. I'm not going to give an inch. This body had the opportunity to move forward with the next bill on the agenda. I don't even know what it is. I think it's Senator Sanders has a bill next on the agenda. And I had agreed to withdraw any amendments that I had on future bills on the agenda for today. But this body decided that they wanted me to go on, I don't know what we want to call this, my vendetta on behalf of trans kids. Because this is how the rest of the session is going to be for every bill. So I've got some information here from, looks like it is Nebraska's commercial sex market from the Women's Fund, a fact sheet. Support Trafficking Survivors Act. Nearly every month in Nebraska, 900 individuals on average are advertised for sex, with the majority of those individuals showing signs of being trafficked. The legislature has made great strides in modernizing our laws to recognize trafficking survivors as victims, but our state must make services available to protect and support these victims. Counseling is really big, especially if they've gone through it and they're survivors. Even after they've been taken out of the situation, you still need the aftercare like counseling and support. Substantial harm results from the commercial sexual exploitation of individuals, including physical violence, negative physical and mental health consequences, rape, and suicide. Traffickers maintain control of their victims through a variety of violent acts. As a result of this violence, 99% of sex trafficking victims report negative physical health consequences, and 98% report negative mental health consequences. 42% of survivor victims attempt suicide, and more than 80% are raped and during their trafficking. A recent survey illustrates the need for additional investments in supportive services and law enforcement resources. More than 80% of service providers responded that they do not believe statewide resources are meeting the needs of residential shelter services, mental health services, and substance abuse recovery services for victims. Sorry. 72% of service providers responded that they do not believe their capacity and resources are adequately meeting the needs of victims for their services they currently provide. 65% of law enforcement officers responded they did not have adequate numbers of staff to respond to trafficking cases. 45% of law enforcement officers responded they did not believe there are adequate resources to refer sex trafficking victims for services. I'm sorry, just got a bad tickle. Just another issue we could be working on, but we are not. Getting back to the audit of TANF. Oh, before I do that, that roll call vote on the motion to reconsider is very illustrative of why you should vote for a call of the House, because nobody was in here. And next time that it matters to you, I hope you remember that if nobody's in here and and the call of the House fails, then you are jeopardizing whatever it is you are trying to achieve. Okay. So prior to the receipt of ADC cash assistance, that's aid to dependent children, ADC, any work-eligible individual in the household unit are required to participate in employment first activities. Oh, I may have read this already. Well, I'll read it again. Including employment, job searching, education, vocational training, or community services. Each work-eligible individual must complete NEF, employment first, orientation and assessment, sign a self-sufficiency contract, and agree to a service plan defining the participants' EF activities and requirements. Once these steps toward employment first enrollment have been completed, the individual can begin receiving the monthly ADC payments. Nebraska work-eligible individuals include all adults up to age 64, including individuals medically unable to
1 minute.
For example, for those who are disabled, ill, have any injury, or are in the third trimester of pregnancy. Other exemptions include those who are needed in the home to provide care to disabled family member or child less than 12 weeks old. Children ages 16 to 18 are excluded only if enrolled and attending school on a regular basis. Single parent households are required to participate at least 30 hours per week or 20 hours per week if they have a child less than 6 years of age, while two-parent households are required to participate either 35 or 55 hours per week, depending on whether they receive federally funded childcare. I think I'm about done on this term, so I'm going to take a big gulp of hot water. How much time did I have left?
That's your time, Senator.
Thank you.
You're next in the queue.
Awesome sauce. Thank you, Mr. President. Okay. The Employment First program also provides certain payments for supportive services, including gas, vehicle insurance, registration, clothing, vehicle repairs, or bus or cab fares in order to facilitate full participation in the program. Seems like a great program that we could put some amount of $130 million towards. Especially, we have a workforce shortage. We have $130 million sitting in a rainy day fund, totally untouched. One of the things that can be used for is Employment First program, which helps facilitate people who have obstacles to being employed, helps them over those obstacles, whether it be gas, whether it be car insurance, fixing a broken car, riding the bus to a job, practical things. We are not addressing those. Not at all. Not one bit. Nebraska, you did. It was a doozy when you elected this body. I hope it's reflecting the values you hoped we would espouse of doing nothing to improve your lives, take away your rights, and not address our taxes or our enormous cash fund. I hope that we are living up to those wonderful expectations that you must have had when you got to the polling place last November. The following table shows a breakdown of the total ADC and EF expenditures, ADC being aid to dependent children and EF being employment first expenditures for FY 2014 per the Nebraska Information System. There were 641 individuals who received EF supportive services payments, and these individuals were also included among the 13,491 individuals who received ADC payments. So, state funds, federal funds. The EF supportive services are paid with 90% federal funds and 10% state funds. Meanwhile, ADC cash assistance payments are paid primarily with 80% federal funds and 20% state funds, although in certain instances, such as households that qualify with a two-parent family or cases in which the family is exempt from EF participation, the ADC payment is 100% funded by the state. Overall summary. Oh, I think my page jumped around. It's a 30-page report. There's a lot in here. Unreasonable and unnecessary supportive services. Unreasonable and unnecessary payments, 27,000. So I love this. So this is like millions and millions and millions of dollars. And one of the concerns that I hear so often from some of my
1 minute.
my more conservative colleagues is this deep concern that people are going to be scamming the system. So we have to make the system so arduous and complicated and costly to administer just so we can combat the potential of somebody scamming the system. So this is a tens of millions of dollar program. And in 2014, the auditor found $6,182 of improperly issued funds. That doesn't mean that there was necessarily somebody scamming the system. This is some part of, there was a breakdown somewhere, whether somebody scammed the system throughout or whether there was just a breakdown in how the program was administered. Tens of millions of dollars. And instead of doing everything we can to help needy children
That's
thrive,
your time, Senator. Senator John Kavanaugh, you're recognized to speak.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I guess, all of us respond to positive and negative feedback different ways. So when Senator Michaela Kavanaugh said she appreciated people getting up and taking a little bit of time, even though we're not involved and we recognize what she's doing, that she appreciated that. So I'm responding to positive feedback in a positive way by just taking a few more minutes to let her cough off the microphone. But again, I think LB 147 seems like a good bill. I actually talked to some county folks, taking this opportunity to talk to people about things. And again, they would like this bill to pass. I present not voting on the first motion recommit. And then when we had, or I guess that was the motion to bracket, and then we had the motion to reconsider the vote. I did vote for that, even though I didn't vote for the original motion. And part of that was in response to what Senator Conrad said. So I was kind of taking her up on her suggestion to find a path forward, and maybe we could move on to some of these other bills. I happen to have a bill on the worksheet order today myself that I think would be a good bill, good addition to the statutes of the state of Nebraska. And so if you get an opportunity, take a look at it. I think it's something you'd all appreciate. But I was just sitting here looking at the paper and saw, it's coming up on crane watching season. So those of you might want to put it on your calendar to go out to Senator Lowe's district or Senator Aguilar's district. And I don't know, Senator Lippincott, maybe you've got some good spots to watch the cranes. But if you haven't had the opportunity to go out to Western Nebraska or Central Nebraska, the Central Flyway is actually what it's called, to see the sandhill crane migration and the whooping cranes, you should certainly do it. Actually, Senator Lowe and I and Senator Bosselman went out last year and had a great opportunity, wonderful night in the blind, looking at all the cranes. I've been out there countless number of times, never seen a whooping crane, but it's still worth it just to see the thousands upon thousands of sandhill cranes. But I think if you are interested, there's going to be opportunities. There are certainly organizations that would be happy to take you out and show you. And, this article is actually about new counter for Crane Trust calls the experience pretty awesome. And so the Crane Trust, the reason I've been out there so many times is that actually my dad was on the Crane Trust when I was a kid. So I got to go out there and spend every spring break in middle school and high school sitting in a blind at 5 o'clock in the morning looking at cranes, which I didn't appreciate at the time. I didn't think was really a great use of my spring break. But in retrospect, I really appreciated it. I appreciate it. And actually the blinds now, back then they were very cold and uncomfortable. They are now, the ones that we went in last year was very nice, much more comfortable. So again, it's not a big sacrifice. It's not hard to go do. So I would certainly encourage you to take that opportunity. But one of the things, this is, you may have figured out, one of my passion projects is the Environmental Trust. And this is separate than the Crane Trust. They're two different organizations, but the Nebraska Environmental Trust has given money to habitat restoration for the cranes, both whooping cranes and sandhill cranes. And you all know that the crane migration observation is a huge tourism attraction for the state of Nebraska. And so we are investing money in repairing habitat that then has
1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. President, increased the number of birds that come to the state of Nebraska and increase tourism. But one of the things that's interesting about this is, so we're investing in these things. We have actually seen the whooping cranes. Like I said, I've never seen one because they've been on the endangered species list, but we've seen the population grow as a result of investing in habitat for them. And that money comes from things like the Environmental Trust. And I'm actually going to run out of time for this topic, so I can push my light. But this is interesting because we had this conversation in Natural Resources yesterday where we were talking about the impacts of different forms of energy production on all of the things in our natural world, in wind turbines killing birds and things like that. Coal and natural gas tower emissions that then, cause global warming.
That's your time, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Clerk, for announcements.
Mr. President, amendments to be printed. Senator Breezy to LB 51. Senator Kavanaugh to LB 147. New A bill. Senator Erdman, Legislative Bill 395A. Bill for enacting new appropriations, appropriates funds to aid in the carrying out of the provisions of Legislative Bill 395. Name ads. Senator Albright to LB 91. Senator Merman, Linehan, and Holleran to LB 562. Senator Conrad to LB 637. Senator Dover to LB 805. Announcement. The Government Committee will hold an executive session this afternoon after their hearing. Government Committee executive session after their hearing this afternoon. Finally, Mr. President, a priority motion. Senator Slama would move to adjourn the body until Friday, February 24th at 9:00 a.m.
The question is, shall the legislature adjourn for the day? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. We are adjourned.